please welcome the incredible Alexi Panos.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here, Renee.
Yeah, the last time I saw you, I'm pretty sure we shared a bed.
I think we did share a bed. It was at a women's mastermind. It was pre-kids for me. So we go way back, and it's been a while.
That has been 9 years?
Well, my oldest is almost 7, so at least 8.
Because it was Anisha. Was she not pregnant?
I think she was pregnant. I remember her in overalls and a beautiful pregnant belly. So yeah.
I know. That was cool.
Yeah.
What a reflection. You know what's so random too is this morning I tweeted, which I don't tweet that much. And by the way, it's not X, it's Twitter forever for me. How much I don't like San Francisco.
And here we are talking about it.
We're talking about San Francisco. That was my last good memory of the city.
I was going to say, didn't you spend a lot of time there? You lived there for a while, right?
Yeah, for 2 years.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, but I was also in the neighborhood of 25-year-old white tech dudes.
Oh, fun.
Very different energy than you and I have in our lives.
Yes.
So that was my taste of San Francisco, and I know there's so much more.
Yeah, it was unfair. Unfair taste.
No, unfair. Yeah. And then my on the other end of the spectrum is sharing a bed with another tall, beautiful woman.
Yes. Yes, it was probably a full-size bed as well. It wasn't a king size, I don't think.
I don't know. No, but it was fun. It was fun. My gosh, those days. And here we are now. You have four beautiful kids.
4 kids, yep. All very close in age. I just did kids like I do everything in life, full overachiever mode, and just banged them out.
Weird. You have twins in there?
I do. I have 4-year-old twins, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Oh. Whoa.
Busy.
Okay. Yeah. High achiever.
Yeah. Busy life.
I thought I was. My boys are 11 months apart.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But it gets so much cooler. Literally every day. And you see it too. It's just there's just these little milestones or personalities come out.
It's the best.
It is.
The best. Preston and I, we literally at least a few times a week are how good is our life? Our life is so good. We just love our life. We love our kids. We love our work. We're this is it. We have nailed
Pinch me.
Yeah.
But it's not it's easy because
it's not.
You two are both entrepreneurs, very powerful people in your field.
Yeah.
And growing successful businesses. And you're hey, let's just have 4 kids in a couple months. Let's just do this.
Let's do it. Yeah.
And and I know you probably get this question a lot, but what was the thing that kept it all together for you guys?
Well, the truth is it almost fell apart. That's the honest truth is there was so much going on. And we were building multiple 7-figure businesses, building multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, doing service work abroad, having kids, COVID, moving. We moved from California to Texas. So there was just a lot all at once that was happening. And it almost fell apart because we were so busy and we were just okay, we'll get to us soon. And we just kept putting us on the back burner and high five, go team, but not really cultivating and nourishing the fire, stoking the fire of our intimacy, of our relationship, of our communication. And so 3 years ago, we hit that reckoning point for ourselves where it was do we actually still want to do this? Because we could probably co-parent well, definitely co-work well, and we don't have to romantic well. And we actually had to sit with that. And it was it was a full identity crisis for both of us because we were who are we without each other in partnership? Because a lot of our work is together too. So it's we're so intrinsically linked in all these ways. And we took 90 days and really came back into our sovereignty and said, from our sovereignty, let's choose each other or not. And we chose each other again. And we buried our old wedding rings and we buried our old marriage and he reproposed and we're doing a new ceremony and
goosebumps.
Yeah. So it's pretty magical. I feel we have the best version of our relationship we've ever had. And there's so much depth and so much honesty, and we're just really seeing each other, I think, for the first time.
More
as adults, as the maturation of both of us, because we met when we were so much younger. And so now we've gone through so much, we've learned so much, we've had kids, we've matured so much that now we're meeting each other in these wiser adult selves versus like these wounded kids that are like, love me, choose me.
Yeah. What a gift. And then you two individually doing the work.
Yes.
Was there any like grief wrapped up in that ceremony of letting go?
Girl, I went through the biggest grief portal of my life, like 2 years. And here's the crazy thing with grief portals. Like I really gave myself to it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go. I'm going to let grief go. And I had to grieve everything I previously didn't give space to grieve in my, 40 years of life. So that was intense.
So it wasn't just relationship parenting stuff. It was a whole
everything. Yeah. It was like grieving like the woman that made, that said yes when she meant no, the woman who made choices not in her power, the woman who got abandoned and betrayed when she was younger, like grieving all these micro moments. And it just really taught me how to like what the true definition of what loving yourself means. It's like loving the fullness of the experience of who you've been, who you are, and who you're becoming as a woman. And it's just like, I have such a deep relationship with myself now that I'm so grateful for. And the irony is that grief, it was so deep and so raw and so real. But I also felt the highest highs I had ever experienced in my life because I was so open and just so like available to life itself. Like, come at me, let's go.
Do you think this, we'll say this like transition is available to women that are younger, like in their 20s? Or do you think there's like a life you have to live before you can have the maturity to go through this?
That's a good question. I think versions of it are available to anybody if you're available to really get honest with yourself. And I do think we're at this reckoning point in society as a whole where women are starting to wake up and go, oh, my voice matters. Oh, I have agency. Oh, I have choice. Oh, I don't have to put up with this shit anymore. And we're starting to like take back our power in a way that's not like I'm trying to be equal with men, but I'm trying to be the fullness of myself, which is a completely different game to play. And so I think there's going to be stages of that happen for every woman. And as you know, being a mom, motherhood is an initiation that no other initiation can compare to. Right? Like, having kids is, it puts everything into a different perspective. All the things you thought you would do as a parent and as a woman and it's like, okay, good luck. Like, good luck. You're going to be thrown into chaos. You're going to be thrown into unknown. And you're constantly playing this game of who do I need to be now? Who do I need to be now? And it's huge for a lot of women. So I do think age and experience does play a part for sure.
I've been hitting that head on. Part of it is like, I always imagine grief to be something that happens to you when you lose somebody, when somebody dies. But I had Chris Carr on the show. Yeah. She's like, no, grief is everywhere in life.
Everywhere.
It's losing relationships. It's like, losing a new chapter or moving on in business. Yeah. And when you become better at grieving, then you understand the work that needs to be done. For me, it's like the grief of my kids no longer being little.
Yeah.
And those like little, the little cheeks and the little teeth. And now it's like stinky preteen attitude.
Totally. I'm not there yet, but I know it's coming for
cool. me. Yeah. But there's also these like, oh, I haven't actually allowed myself to be okay with the fact that we're no longer raising little kids anymore.
Yeah. Yes. There's a quote I was reading this morning and I don't remember where it was from, but it was an article that was summarizing all these beautiful ideas from books. And there was this one idea of parents have to grieve every day because every day they lose the little kid from the day before. And I was like, oh, it's so true. Like it's a mini death, right? This mini death of like you said, the little teeth, the baby teeth. And
I love the baby teeth.
Oh, they're so cute. And my oldest just lost both his front teeth. And
yeah.
I miss this baby teeth so much.
The opposite of a beaver.
Yeah.
And then they come in and it's so awkward because they're such bigger teeth and like their face doesn't fit the teeth yet. And you're like, oh no, here goes those stages.
Exactly. And there's beauty and grief in every stage of life. And I think we as a society have been so sanitized from grief that we do only kind of put it in this box of like, oh, it's only when people die that we're allowed to feel. And so then we just keep trucking on and trucking on and trucking on. But truthfully, there is grief in every single moment of every day if we allow ourselves to be open enough to life to actually feel it. And that's how we feel the beauty of life as well, as we have to be open enough to life to feel it.
I lost you there for a second.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Okay. Do you need me to pick back up? Where'd you lose me at?
No, I'm going to repeat this because this was so good. It's like society says that we're only allowed to feel when people die.
Yes.
But we're not allowed to grieve the other things because we have to be strong. We can't show our emotions.
And we just have to keep pushing through. And I think we have hit a point in our society where we are so inundated with technology and work and life and all the things that there is so much unfelt that there's actually this huge buildup, and we're living in this. It's almost like we're living on top of a mountain of unfelt. And when we do have those big moments that, when our kids go off to college or our relationship ends or someone dies, when we do allow ourselves to open the grief portal, we literally start to feel all those unfelts that have just been stacking for years.
So that those feelings are bigger than they should have been.
Yeah. And anything that stays in the darkness just gets bigger. And then we have, if you grew up in a household where feelings were bad or shamed, or you were told to stop crying, then there's all this shame around, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Why am I weak? Can I just be bigger than this and get over it? Why can't I use my mindset tricks? And we start to shame these feelings, which creates a whole dysregulated system of, I'm not good enough. I need to be hypervigilant in survival because something's wrong with me. And then that creates all these patterns in our work, all these patterns in our relationships, all these patterns with our kids. And we can't get out of this cycle because we're just so full of unfelt feelings.
Yeah. I'm actually reading Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. And he talks about how people have healed themselves of debilitating diseases by just changing their mindset.
Yep.
They actually did a study. I don't even know who did the study, but they said that people were able to build muscle, like their biceps and their arms, just by mentally going through the motion of actually working out.
That's right.
It's like, I'm working on my butt muscles right now.
Exactly. I'm building my butt as we're talking.
But it got me thinking, like, even this weekend, because Dan and I have been doing this deep work too, and recognizing that I feel like there's this stage in parenting kids at certain ages that is the toughest on a relationship.
Yeah.
And we're coming out of that now. We have more time, capacity, and resources to actually do the work.
Yeah.
And this past weekend, as part of our quarterly couples retreat, I did confess something that was like gnawing at me since I was like 15 years old.
Yeah, wow.
Like, oh, now's the time to share it. Oh, no. And I just let the journal write it out. And then he came into the room and I was like, I got to tell you something. And I read it. And he goes, whoa, I felt that. And let me tell you, so we're Thursday right now. This was on Saturday afternoon.
Oh, wow. So fresh.
I still feel deeply emotionally hungover from sharing that. If you think about this, it was building in the darkness. It was always there. There was always that monster inside of me that I finally just shared it with one person. That was it.
That's it.
And now it's like, oh, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And the ego is like, figure it out. Go get help. Fix it. And you're not allowed to sit with it. You're not allowed to share this with anybody else. You have to deal with it. And now I'm like, oh my God, this emotion was crazy.
Yeah.
Also, what a relief.
Yeah.
What a massive release. And so we are so afraid to face these demons because then there's also this sense of responsibility that we do have to fix it. And they can't just be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so interesting you share that. And I love that you had that moment because I think it was Harville Hendrix that said, we're born from relationship. We get wounded in relationship and we heal in relationship. And one of the big things that Preston and myself, my husband and I, when we work with people in person in our workshops, we do a lot of trauma healing. And the healing happens in being witnessed, like just being witnessed by another human being who is fully open, fully receptive, and fully safe for you to know that it's not happening now. And it's this crazy thing that happens in our nervous system. Our nervous system, when we don't talk about it, it's running that it's still happening. And so like whatever the trauma was or whatever this big thing was, it just off in the corner, your nervous system's like, oh, that's still happening. It's still happening. We're not safe yet. So then you're just running in hypervigilance, or you're in a freeze state, or you're in, appease and trying to make sure everyone's good around you. Whatever your survival pattern is, that's running unconsciously until we actually liberate ourselves and face off with another human who can hold it. And that's the key point. It has to be a safe human who can hold it. And obviously Dan, I'm sure, did a great job of that, which is amazing. And that instantly takes the burden off, because then your body goes, oh, present moment, we shared it. Someone held it. They loved me through it. They loved me through it. Therefore, I'm safe. So I can turn that off now.
Oh, you know what was so cool too? Is he saw how vulnerable it was and how raw and how much I didn't want to share this.
Yeah.
That he just blurted out his biggest confession too. And I'm like, okay, is this what we're doing?
We're doing it now. Let's go.
And I was like, wow, we're like, that was, it's like when you come out of a cold plunge.
Yeah.
That euphoric feeling where you're like, whoa, that's what it was.
Yes.
And it's like, I know what he did it so that I wouldn't feel so bad about the situation, but also feel relatable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even for him, it was like, ooh, he's like, blah, 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 blah. I was like, yeah, you go. I'm like, what else? He's like, we're good. We don't need to go any deeper.
Enough for today. But that's a big deal, because it's the humanity in us. It's those mirror neurons that are firing off, looking at each other going, oh, you're human too. Oh, you have pain too. Oh, you hurt too. Oh, you have fear too. Oh, I'm not alone. And instantly our system can exhale in knowing that we're not the only ones. And that's such a big piece of our healing. So huge. So
this is stuff the work that you do, right? And understanding the relationship with our nervous system and talking about like redefining pleasure and what's possible in life.
Yes. So good.
Well,
or juicy.
Or juicy. Well, let's talk about this juicy stuff, because I want to know, like, obviously the listeners are female entrepreneurs, but this is the most important work, not how to grow your Instagram following.
Right.
Because this work in aligning your life to ultimate fulfillment you end up following the path that you want to follow.
That's right.
And everything else just kind of happens.
Yeah. You become magnetic for everything when you actually work on the key pieces of the internal alignment. And I'll speak for myself, like being a hustler, female entrepreneur who always identified as an achiever, I put pleasure and alignment and nervous system regulation and spaciousness, I put that on the back as like a nice to have once I get through this launch, once I finish this thing, once I tick another box. And that was my dysregulation. That was my hypervigilance of I'm not enough yet. I need to achieve more in order to be enough. And so therefore, it would never be enough if it's coming from that place. Now, I still get a lot done. I still achieve a lot, but I do it from a completely different place. And it's from magnetism. So I work a lot less and I magnetize more. And it's just like, oh, wow, it could have been this easy all along. Why wasn't I doing this?
Well, because you needed to teach people about it.
I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah. So how do we become more magnetic?
Well, the biggest thing is first we have to recognize where we're in survival. So a lot of female entrepreneurs are so incredible at building their businesses and doing all these things, but they're actually doing it out of dysregulation. And so when you check like, okay, where am I doing this from? Do I have a story of not enough? Do I have a story of if I produce, then I'm useful? Do I have a story of if I have enough money, then I'll be safe? Do I have a story of if I'm well known and everyone likes me, then I'm worthy of love? All of those underpinnings are survival conversations. And that's your nervous system going, hey, our strategy for safety is money, success, accolades, achievement, productivity, being a good woman, whatever our story is, right? And for women, we have so many of them because of our programming of women throughout the centuries of what does it mean to be a good woman in society, as a mother, as a wife, as a partner. And we're coming out of all that conditioning too. So that's step number one. Know what your safety strategy is and start to see, oh, I'm actually working this hard out of dysregulation. I'm actually doing this thing because I want to be loved. This is all survival. And if you want results that are abundant and magnetic and aligned and thriving and infinite, you can't build it out of survival. If you build something from survival, you're going to get survival results. And that's that thing. It's like the hamster wheel where we just can never get off. It never feels like enough, right? So then step 2, pleasure is the key, right? And some people think of pleasure, they instantly think of sex. Of course, sex is pleasurable, but pleasure is finding the joy, finding the magic in every part of life. Like, can you find pleasure in walking out to get the mail? Can you find pleasure in breathing in the morning after a rain? Can you find pleasure in folding the laundry or doing the dishes? If you can't find pleasure there, it's going to be harder to find pleasure in the moments that are actually inducing pleasure, like sex and, achievement and all these things. But we tell ourselves a lie and we say, yeah, but once I achieve this, then I'll feel how I want to feel. And, we've learned and we've achieved enough to know that that's not necessarily true, right? Mm-hmm. We feel it for a second. We're excited for a second. Oh, it feels good for a second. And then we're on to the next thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so an unhappy journey will produce an unhappy result, unhappy destination. And that's the thing. A lot of us are climbing these mountains and we're just so focused on the top of the mountain that we miss that there's this whole ecosystem around us that's beautiful, that just wants to be received and looked at.
We're overlooking the journey and only focusing on the destination. So with our spiritual therapist, Dan and I, we were noticing pockets of like our beliefs and behaviors that showed up that just weren't complementing what it is we were trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And one of it was togetherness as a family. And so in my mind, if we're together, we're together. Like the togetherness is being achieved. Yep. Whether we're brushing teeth together, making lunches, watching a movie, or in a car driving to our destination. But Dan's vision of togetherness was only when we've reached our destination. So we valued punctuality so that we can leave on time to get there to be together. Failing to recognize that the hour-long drive to get to the ski hill was being together.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's really powerful.
And he was like, what? And then everything else started to reframe.
Yeah.
He's like, the moment I'm in an elevator with somebody from my team is togetherness.
So big. Wow, that's such a big distinction to define those words, right?
Togetherness.
Yeah. And that's why I take time to define pleasure, because I find so many women just put it for sex or sexuality. And it's like, that's one very small facet of pleasure. Like our entire lives can be pleasurable if we define it a little more broad and pull out the macro of like, oh, life inherently is pleasurable. But most of us are going pain, pain, pain. Just got to get to the top. I got to work for this. I got to hustle for this. It's hard. We have all these stories of life is inherently hard. Relationships are inherently hard versus how can I find this and make this artful, pleasurable, memorable, measurable in my system? How can I feel this instead of just going like, oh yeah, that was awesome. I feel gratitude for it. We think about it in our head, we write it in our journal, but did your heart crack open and like, did you shed a tear in the amount of gratitude you were able to feel for whatever you wrote down in your journal? It's an inherently different experience.
Okay, so I know you have more steps, but question on this is I often, and this is just me stating my experience in terms of experiencing pleasure in my life is often when and only I reflect back on it. Back on a moment, not in the moment.
Yes.
Sometimes it shows up in the moment, like really the views from our house, the sunrises, the sunsets. We're always like, what? Wow, this is awesome.
Yep.
But even things like we give away Taylor Swift tickets on Monday afternoon, and we got to physically give the tickets to these people. And that moment was amazing. We came back to the studio after and people asked us, how was it? And I was like, it's great. I get goosebumps. We cried, but I still don't know yet. I need to reflect back on it.
Interesting. Interesting. So from a biological standpoint, and this may or may not be true for you, but biologically, we would say if you are in a hypervigilant state, you're either in the past or in the future, right? If you are present, you're available to receive the here and now. So it could be that while you were there, you're thinking, oh, we got to get back to the studio. We have this appointment, right? You're like on to the next thing, which is very much how our society is built. This isn't a just you thing. This is 100% basically of all people, unless they are taking the time to consciously pull themselves out of this future past matrix and go, what is here now? What is here now? I am here now. I am here now. What's happening now? I'm handing these tickets to this family and they're so excited about this. Wow, what a moment. What a blessing. What a privilege. What an honor that I get to do this. Let me just marinate in it for a second. And it could last 2 seconds, but then you're on to the next now moment. But it's always the now. And I think, again, spiritually, we've been hearing about now in the present moment for ages, right? This isn't a new concept, but the modern human has a really hard time actually landing in the now. Mm-hmm. Because we're so, especially high achievers, we're so future focused. What's coming? I got to be on schedule. I got to be on target. My launches, I got to, there's all these things I have to do. Or if we're, more in the victim-y things that happened to me, we're stuck in the past. Oh, this is just my lot in life. Nothing good ever happens to me. And we get stuck in that paradigm. So this is another reason why pleasure is so powerful, because if we think about sex, right? We think about the orgasm. The orgasm is such a moment that brings you to such presence. Nothing else is here. Everything is this moment. Everything is happening. Feel it in your body, even if it only lasts 15 seconds. Now. And when that happens, when we're in present moment state, we're actually out of the reptilian center of our brain. We're in the prefrontal cortex, which is our learning center, where everything opens up. It's why, if you've ever heard of sex magic, it's when people are putting in things that they want to create in orgasmic state, because the learning centers of your brain are fully activated and online, meaning your range of your field, your range of possibility. Can you hear me? Did you lose me?
No, I'm here. I got you.
I saw something come up. But our range of possibility and what we can create, how we can think, what we can tap into in the field at large is expanded in those moments. So when we're in pleasure, we are in our most productive, most creative, most available for downloads, flow states. Pleasure activates that.
So our spiritual therapist, Stephanie, I always refer to her because she's just a world of wisdom. She taught us the other day, she actually asked us the question, what's the difference between a monk and a unhoused person, a homeless person? And it's simple, yet very difficult, is the monk can allow like a fog or like a cloud, a thought to pass through their brain and then to just escape the other side. But people who are in dire situations, typically they just repeat the story of who they are and why they're not worthy enough, and this is happening to me, and they can never get out of it. It's a perpetual cycle.
Yes.
This totally relates to pleasure.
Yeah, and it's true. And I hate to say it, but the modern woman is in a pleasure deficit. We have made ourselves so busy. We have taken on so much. We are doing so much invisible labor in the home, in the workplace, in our relationships, that we have burdened ourselves to the point where we're like, pleasure? I don't even have time to think about pleasure. I'm so busy, right? And yet it's the one thing that will unlock everything for us, but we put it off to the end because essentially it's correlating with this thing of I'm not worthy of feeling good unless I work for it, unless I overfunction, unless I overgive, unless I bend over backwards, unless I'm the best woman on the planet, unless I'm super mom, super wife, super friend, super daughter. Then once I'm all that, once I'm finally enough, then I can feel good. And it's this pervasive story that's been around for centuries. And now it's just showing up in these very modern ways. So it's an interesting conundrum we find ourselves in as modern women.
As you're talking, I'm listening, but then I'm also mad at myself because I know I need to do this.
Yeah.
And even so, coming home from this crazy weekend is the pleasure I needed, and I knew this, was to do a hot tub and then red light sauna therapy.
Yes.
And I would always say, does anybody want to come with me, to my husband or to the kids?
Yeah.
And on one occasion, Max came and it was really cool.
Yeah.
But I just needed to sit there.
Yeah.
And sometimes with a book, sometimes with nothing for 30 minutes and then do. And there was still that guilt that creeped in, like, oh, but the kids need to have a snack now. Oh, but they need to start getting ready for bed. Oh, is their outdoor clothes ready for tomorrow?
Yes.
I just sit in this pool of worry.
Yes.
And I'm like, can't I just enjoy the fact that I'm in a hot tub right now and all that stuff will eventually happen?
Yes.
It's really tough.
Yeah, it's hard. It's so hard because we have taken on as women this idea that it falls on us. Like it's expected of us. And we've essentially robbed our children, our partners of the ability to self-source and take care of. And I relate so hard to this because I hold so much in the home. And with 4 kids, it's nonstop. And part of that reckoning that my husband and I had is we talked about our roles in the house and how much invisible labor I was holding, not because it was his fault, because I actually just took it on because that's what I do everywhere in my life is I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. And I did that at home. And yet unconsciously, I was resenting the fact that I felt like it was always on me to do. And so it's one of those hard conversations we had to have where he didn't even realize, 90% of the stuff I was holding in my brain. It's all these things, this invisible labor.
You endure it. Yeah. Really, how can you not read my mind?
Come on. It's so loud. It's screaming at you right now.
Yeah, it's the mental load. I talked to this the other day, actually, it was like a couple weeks ago with Dan, and he asked me a question about making a decision. And I just turned to him and I was like, by me being responsible for this outcome adds to my mental load.
Yes.
I do not want to take this on.
Yes.
And the biggest thing I told him that I'm never going to do is ever schedule our date nights. I go, you want, we both want it.
Yep.
I don't care what we eat. I don't care where we go. You care more than I do. Just make sure it's in my schedule. And if it's okay with you, then you can schedule everything. Because then that just adds to everything else that I'm working on, like the 18 emails we get from school every week about homework, about activities, then coordinating like play dates and Halloween trick-or-treating stuff. And, it never ends. And he doesn't know that this stuff is happening on the back end because I took it on, much like you.
Yeah. And you handle it so well, so beautifully. And I guarantee you that your listeners are the same women. You handle everything so flawlessly that someone wouldn't even know that it's getting done. Because it looks like it just magically happens, right?
It just happens.
It just happens. But it happens because we have taken it on. And again, it's not our partner's fault. Obviously, they're complicit in this culture that we've created together. But truthfully, this is on us as women to start going, wait, why am I doing this? And for me, my story was, I see that my story of safety is if I'm the most useful person in my children's life, in my husband's life, in my friend's life, in my, community's life, I'll never get hurt because they'll always need me. Mm-hmm. Oh, and that is one that will slowly burn you out and create so much exhaustion. And I know because I had to learn that the hard way, right? And so the reckoning with Preston and I and this new relationship is really about looking at like, hey, what's on the family load this week? How do we want to set up systems for it? So we've been like setting up like a family operating system, and we're finding new ways to like family well together, to partner well together, to like mom and dad well together, because we weren't taught how to do this. And so it really is like, again, self-love has taken on such a deeper meaning for me, because for me to really love myself, I've got to honor myself and the space I need for pleasure, for those moments in the hot tub with a red light where my brain's not going, oh yeah, but you should. Like, where can I offset that to my husband? Oh, I should? Here, P, you do this because I need this time. This will make me a better human. This will make me a better wife. You will thank me in 30 minutes for this.
And that's it. Like, I feel like men are way more simple than women. However, even this morning, I was like rushing to get out the door. Noah goes to a private school and their Thursdays are fully outside regardless of the weather conditions. So it requires more organization in terms of boots and outdoor clothes and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's always a panic on Thursday mornings. When I was getting ready and Dan was like 2 seconds in and out to go to the gym. And I'm not like shunning him in any of this.
Yeah.
His mornings are very structured, like super duper routined in order to get his workout in and all this stuff. Mine are structured in terms of getting the kids off to school. And you know what? I haven't even eaten breakfast today. So I turned to him at one moment. He's like, hey, what do you got going on today? And I mentioned that we were recording this episode. He's like, that's cool. Say hi. So Dan says hi.
Yeah, hi.
And then I'm like, hey, Dan, have you driven the boys to school at all this year? I don't know how many days of the year we're in at this point.
Yeah.
And he goes, I think like once. And I'm like,
yeah.
I already said it was my responsibility. I already said, I'll do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It's very demanding.
Very demanding. And so, it's not just driving the kids to school. It's like you said, it's all the prep and getting them off to school, making sure you have everything in the car. What day is it today? Oh, it's Thursday. It's the day where we need all the things to prepare for all sorts of weather. Like, it isn't just one step, right? And so I love that you had that conversation and revisiting. Like, this is a big thing for P and I. It's like we revisit. So we'll assign tasks. So for instance, you took on driving the kids to school. We'll have like a quarterly check-in of like, hey, I'm really annoyed of this task. I know I took it on, but can I hand this to you for the next 3 months? And that's a really great way to just be like, because even when I'm annoyed of a task, I'm like, okay, I signed up for this. We wrote it down. We signed off. I took this on. I get to just be okay with however I feel about it for 90 days. This is mine to own. Own it.
Like, stupid. Why did I agree to this?
Oh, this is the worst.
Right now, so annoying. No, and we define these roles. I'm the CEO. He's the CFO.
Yep.
And fair enough. However, there's a lot that falls under the CEO that I'm realizing, because CFO is more specific in terms of like what he needs to do. But I'm also realizing this confidence in me too, and being like, oh, like the awareness is now coming to surface. Like, oh, I'm aware of this.
Yes.
I'm also like hyper aware of my need to have a super clean kitchen all the time.
Oh, girl, me too.
I'm like, just the sink. Can it please be cleaned? But for what reason?
Right.
Like they pointed out, like, we are not having guests over. There's nobody coming. Why is this important? And I was like, okay, you're right. And I was chronically 5 to 10 minutes late because I had to have a clean kitchen.
Yes.
Guess what? We have a full-time house manager that shows up every day to clean the kitchen.
Yeah.
Well, why am I doing this?
Yes. Interesting.
And I released it. I let go, and it got done every single time. I came home at the end of the day to a clean kitchen.
So nice.
Hold on.
Yep. So nice. And delegating. So big.
Oh, the delegation is huge. But also, like, the hardest part is feeling worthy of that, of the receiving of a capacity. And now it's like, I save an hour a day now.
Yeah.
And immediately go to, what can I fill it with?
Right. It's so crazy. And, you know, again, pleasure is the most productive thing that you can do because of it just activates and opens all these incredible centers of your brain. So for instance, I had to reprogram this in my mind because pleasure to me used to be a waste of time, right? Like if I filled in the blank after someone said pleasure, I'd be like, waste of time, right? That's the type of person I was. But now I reprogram it as pleasure, most productive thing, because what I get is my best ideas. I get the next level strategy that changed our business. I get, I need to reach out to this person, And it's the space where my $1 million ideas, my $5 million ideas, my next level creative, endeavor that I'm taking on comes in. Oh, that thing that I want to do for the kids. It is where my genius thinking comes in, is when I'm in my pleasurable moments. So as women, we have to reframe that because again, most high achieving women are much like me and have some version of that. Pleasure, waste of time, or pleasure, don't have time for it, or pleasure would be nice, right? And it's always this like off over here, like, not for me, not now, maybe when, in the distance. Yeah.
Pleasure is priority.
I like that one. Yes.
I feel like it brings you closer to God too.
It does. It does. And reminds you the whole purpose of life, like the meaning of life. What's the point of life if we're missing it?
Spiritually.
That, like, I think about how hard I worked my whole life. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 8. My entire life, I have worked nonstop with no breaks. And yes, I lived a great life. Yes, I did a lot, but I also missed the magic along the way. And now I'm 41, I'm like, I'm not missing it. I'm not missing it anymore. I am catching all of it, because what else is the point of being here? Yes, I want to create and make money and play the game, because why not? It's fun. And I love it. What does it all mean if I'm missing what the life that I'm building for myself in the process of it?
Just ask your kids what was their favorite moment of a trip or of anything. We went to Disney World a few years ago, and we just crushed 3 days. Like, I'm talking 45,000 step days.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. We're like, if we're committed, we're going all in.
We're here. We're going to be here.
I stayed at the Grand Floridian, and it's like an iconic old school hotel. It was beautiful, and it has like the pool and everything. We're flying home, sitting next to the boys, and we turn to the boys, like, debrief. Tell us, what was your favorite part of the trip? And they said to us, the hotel pool.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, screw you.
You know how much work.
My feet hurt. And I'm like, that was not my favorite part. And then when we actually deconstruct it, it's because it was simple.
That
we were together. There was no bustle of the life. Yes, Disney's great. Don't get me wrong. It's very magical.
Yeah.
But don't miss the magic.
That
is that when you're there, you're just like in line onto the next ride. What's the next ride? Can we get a speed pass or whatever they're called? What are we going to do for lunch? There's always like, what's next? What's next? You're standing in line for 2 hours for a 1-minute ride.
Right. Crazy. Yes. Yes.
There's no magic in the middle.
Yes. Yeah.
The magic to them was the pool, because they can come and go as they please. And there were other kids. They made friends.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, maybe life is actually more simple than this.
And if you think about it, like, as parents, I love that example, because I think as parents, I find myself in the trap of like, are our kids in enough activities? Are they doing enough? Like, do we need, and no, we don't need to entertain them more. Like, it's good for them to be bored. It's good for them to have space, because otherwise we're just training them into our own neuroses of always having to fill our space with stuff. More stuff, more stuff, more stuff, more activities, more to do versus, let's like expand into this time in the pool. How nice is this to just be in the pool? Just be with my favorite people, making some new friends, having fun.
That's it. Oh yeah. No, it's beautiful. And even for us, we have like a one activity a season rule in our house. We have friends that have like their kids in this and that and 5 days a week. And I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
We are not.
No.
Pretty much the only Canadian family whose boys don't play hockey.
Oh yeah.
Because
that's an anomaly. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I feel like we're like mostly American in our blood. It's like we don't play football or hockey. But anyway, we play soccer. But I love this. Pleasure is priority. Don't miss the magic.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we can add to this perfect list?
This perfect list. Well, I think the biggest thing is, think of who you are when you are in a state of pleasure. I know when I'm in a state of pleasure, I'm euphoric, I'm present, I'm open, I'm grounded, I'm breathing, I'm in my body. I can feel more, I can sense more, I can see more. That is a very different energetic field than someone who's like, oh, I got to get this done and I got to get the emails done and da, 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 da. That field is very tight. And we are all energetic fields, right? This is not spiritual. This is science. We can prove it. And that field is very tight and rigid. And then you go into someone who's in pleasure and their field is very open and expansive. And so we attract from the context from which we are. And if you're in a rigid, tight context, you're going to attract from tight, scarcity, not enoughness, hurriedness, busy, overwhelm. If you're in this expansive exhale of your body, of your context, of your field, you attract ease, you attract grace, you attract opportunities that feel different. There's a different resonance to everything in your life. And so my final point for the case of pleasure is that your context literally attracts an equal vibration to who you're being, how you're showing up. And pleasure, when we're in that context, we are at our most aligned, most free, most expressed, most grounded, and most whole, integrated mind and body. We're in this space of like full aliveness. And that attracts an entirely different type and quality of life than someone who's in a rigid state.
Yeah, and it also helps with their digestive system.
100%.
Yeah. Think about like a tight butthole.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So true. Okay, one last question for you.
Yes.
When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that to you?
Wild to me, I just think of liberation. So, we think of freedom. One of my top values is freedom, but yet I had no idea what that meant in my 20s and 30s. Like in my 40s, I'm understanding that true freedom is the freedom to be wholly myself, to grieve deeply, to love deeply, to expand expansively, like to just be fully myself without this idea or consideration of, well, what will that mean for others? Or who will I upset? Or what will they think? Or X, Y, and Z. But just, I am honoring the gift that God gave me, this life. I'm going to honor God and say yes. That to me is wild. It's like I am in my most wild, free state, in the state I was created to be. And I'm not going to dishonor who you've made me to be.
So beautiful. Okay. So people want to go online to find you. Where can they go?
Yeah. So I'm mostly on Instagram at Alexi Panos and alexipanos.com. My in-person workshops are all on there. My work with women is all on there. But find me on the gram. That's where I share my stuff. That's where I show up. Got a podcast as well. I'm rebranding that now, but just search my name and you'll find it. And would love to hear what landed for you from this episode. Like shoot me a DM and let me know.
Yeah. Well, I will be shooting you notes and stuff. This is great.
Yay. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.